Here we are again, Dan. Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, where we are all about
relentless self-development.
And it's occurred to us recently that we haven't actually had a podcast specifically designed on what we really mean by relentless self-development.
Yeah.
And it's our tagline, and we probably should clarify that with our
I think
audience.
so. I think that's important.
So, and obviously it's our tagline because, it's very, very important to us, and it is kind of how we perceive our being to be. It's a very important part of our life to integrate, obviously.
Definitely, yeah.
It's our tagline of our podcast.
Yeah.
Enough banter. Let's get into it. So what is relentless self-development, and why is it so important that it's our tagline, Dan?
Well, I think we've, again, covered a little bit of a few of these things in other podcasts, and I'd probably have a bit of a different understanding or different emotional connection to what it means to me. But yeah, the idea is that we are relentlessly self-developing in multiple aspects of our lives. So for me, it was connecting with the right friends who inspire me and motivate me. It's also the idea of me recognizing that I enjoy doing certain things, so that I want to continue to improve and learn more about whatever that X thing is, whether that's the YouTube channel or MetaMinds. So to me, it's the idea that I will never be 100%, I'll never be a perfect human being, and that I need to keep creating habits to improve. And I guess. Yeah.
The other element of it is that it's fulfilling when you do something, when you achieve something that you're passionate about, that means something to you. So if it's going around and picking up trash from the ground and you're passionate about that, you might not be achieving anything monetarily, at least to begin with. There's maybe a business idea there. Yep. Don't steal that.
No.
That could be your passion, and that could be the thing that fulfills you, because you're making a difference,
Yeah.
And the difference is something that you make up, you set the rules for that, which is the most powerful thing.
For sure.
It's cannot wait to play 10 hours of Call of Duty today, or whatever it is. And it's that's what fulfills you. I mean, this is a different rabbit hole though, isn't it? Because then we have to talk about what potentially is productive and what potentially, is that selfish or not. But this is all part of it, kind of, that we're talking about. But
because in that example, you could relentlessly try to self-develop on your play style, right?
Which could end up in money.
For sure, yeah.
Gains.
For sure, yeah. Or whether that's something you really enjoy. So I guess it's the idea of, recognizing what it is that you're trying to relentlessly self-develop at. Creating meaning out of it is part of the project, I guess, in my eyes.
But for us, I suppose, when we talk about relentlessly self-developing, another word is obsessed,
Right.
And, there's something a lot of people say, a lot of influencers, Grant Cardone, one of his books is Be Obsessed or Be Average, basically. That's the title of his book, and it's so true. And I think something that an important aspect and foundation of relentless self-development for myself is that it has to be making a positive impact, not necessarily that Call of Duty, but playing video games isn't, or whatever it is.
Right.
But I mean, yes, that is what I'm saying. I'm calling you out if that's what if that's your thing. No. But to think a little bit bigger. What impact can I have that helps myself, helps the world in a positive way, where literally everybody wins? What's the biggest impact that I can have, basically, on myself and everyone else? And it comes down to very, very small habits that we have every single day.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get to that space where you're in a place of flow all the time, just crushing it. And this is how a lot of social media influencers try to come off, is that, look at me, I'm crushing it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it's not possible.
No.
But burning out is real.
Yeah, exactly. And recognize your limits, and recognize when you need time off.
Yeah.
That's
and
okay.
Some days you just can't crush it,
Yeah.
So for example, I've just gotten back from a huge trip overseas, and the first thing I want to do is just cut everything out and just focus on all of my different goals. And that's because I haven't been able to do that as much for a period of time. And I know that, I'm going to keep doing that every single day. And I know that basically that burnout is coming. I'm going to keep it up for as long as I can, but that burnout is coming.
Yeah.
But to get back to the main thing that we're talking about is you get to choose what it is that you can become obsessed with, and you can make a huge difference in that thing that you're becoming obsessed with. And another huge thing that's become very apparent to myself recently is there's not as many people that are crazily obsessed with just improving every aspect of their life. And that, as I say that, it sounds very egotistical, you know what I mean? But it's I suppose this is partly what we're doing here, is potentially putting some positive thoughts out into the world, and maybe helping people that haven't realized their true potential, or have limiting beliefs, to go, maybe I can take the first step today on whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm scared about doing it, and we're not perfect. We're still scared about like doing a lot of things, basically. Like starting a podcast for the first time, sitting in front of a camera, like that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But here we are, 40 episodes deep, whatever, and it's like, now it's pretty chill. It's still not that chill, guys.
No, definitely not. But it's gotten easier with time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. Like the idea of when we went into the podcast, we had this vision of how we wanted it to be. We had these standards that we set for ourselves in terms of audio quality, video, and also how we're going to present ourselves in the social space. But even with that, like we never, and we still talk about it quite regularly. Like we had a chat about it before, like what can we do to keep improving and keep developing? And as we develop and grow and learn, like how can we potentially implement that into a podcast or implement that into our view on certain things? Like, and I guess that kind of connects with that episode we did on truth seeking, because that's a form of development.
One of my faves, guys. If you haven't heard truth seeking, check that episode out. It's really close.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I guess like the way we were describing it just before, we didn't really touch on the idea that like self-development can be purely just like personal development, like your own development, in terms of like not figuring out what it is that, meaning wise in your life for monetary gain, because that can be quite overwhelming to go like, this is the one thing I'm passionate about. I really want to achieve this thing, whatever that may be. And how am I going to get to that point? Like we've spoken about the idea of having a decent goal, but also recognizing like the steps it takes to get to that, and also recognizing like if this is something you really care about, how can you improve on that each day, and how can you improve on yourself to create something meaningful in your life that will hopefully impact others as well.
And this is a really, really huge part about this topic, is that it's like, it's so easy to go, I want things, but then like, unless you actually kind of define exactly what it is you want and what the steps are you need to take to actually get to that thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can be like, I want to start going to the gym, but can you really see that being a long-term thing to motivate you every day? I mean, we're very lucky we enjoy going to the gym, but also it does take motivation, especially some days, Yeah. So it's like, what is that thing in your head that you've chiseled out that's exactly what you want, that's going to make you go, you know what, I will go to the gym today.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a huge part of it. You can't just be like, I'm into self-development. I listen to a few podcasts and I go for a run every Tuesday. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, you can do that. Like, but like, it's going to be much more effective for you if you actually lay out a plan and understand how you're going to get there. Because then, it's like you're looking at a map basically, and you can only see black, and that somewhere this way, there's like something good, right? There's a treasure chest somewhere this way. But if, you figure out exactly what the treasure chest looks like, then you can kind of uncover the darkness in the map and figure out like what the stepping stones over the lake and through the jungle are to get to the treasure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be much easier for you, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
Just pull that analogy out of nowhere.
That was great.
It was okay, I think.
It was
maybe the next one will be a little bit better.
I appreciate it, though. It was very nice.
But yeah, having foundations.
I think that's important. And I guess also another thing I really want to touch on is like, for me, and I think you would be similar as well, like this is a habit that we have chiseled out over time, and early on in my process of like trying to develop and trying to like hone in on a skill that I really enjoy, that didn't come naturally to me, right? Like it wasn't something that I was like, I'm going to start producing YouTube videos and I'm going to be on my grind every day. I'm going to be constantly connecting. Love how you look at that. Like,
well,
that's what we're about.
I saw something pop up, but maybe it was meta, and I was just looking at that. Anyway, continue.
But so I guess what I would like to explore maybe is a little bit about like anything that we can reflect on about what helped us in creating these habits and in creating this kind of narrative in our life that is now quite common. Like, for example, for me, I have changed the media I consume, where I would waste a lot of time just watching pointless stuff, which I still do. And shout out to Jamie, we watch fail videos every time we do a live cast. And that's pointless, but it's like, we have fun, right?
It's about balance.
And it's about balance, exactly right. But then the majority of the content I'm consuming is audiobooks, podcasts, and I try to have information that I'm kind of leeching onto and connecting with, and people that I look up to as information givers, right? But it definitely was not always like that. No. And I still have moments where I'm just like playing games all the time. And I think what I'm trying to get at is like a lot of these influencers in the space are like, you just need to keep doing it. You just need to keep doing it. But the reality is that you need to recognize your limitations. And also, I think, give yourself permission to have the time off, which is something we've spoken about again in other podcasts. But I think that can actually enable you to be even, like, grow even more, right? Because that allows you to have different kind of insights and take a step back from what it is, and then maybe align more with the meaning of, your life or the things that you're trying to align with more.
But I suppose to go to where the start of that question was.
Yes.
No, it's good. It's good that we ramble, But
Yeah.
the foundation of that question was that like how do we get to the place that we are? And like a big part of it has been like choosing the media, really refining the media that you consume. But it hasn't always been like that. So I suppose like something we should explore potentially to help like people that are looking to, because we've been very blessed in the fact that for some reason we are quite driven and disciplined with a lot of these things, but it can be very, very hard to be disciplined. We happen to enjoy all the things that we're doing, and we happen to love taking each step. But for a lot of people, going to the gym or whatever it may be might actually be really hard to actually, they might love filmmaking, for example, but the business side of it, they have no idea how that works. So like, what are some ways that can, we've discussed the foundation of it, but what are some other ways that, can help people become like obsessed with improving their life, if that's an avenue.
If that's what they
or
want,
just, you don't have to become obsessed, but
no.
1% Better. What's that book? I'm going to find it right now. 1% Better Every Day, basically. All right, it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yeah, he works with a lot of athletes, basically, and the main story that he tells is the cyclists in. It was like 10 or 15 years ago for doing the Tour de France. I believe it was France, maybe. Just might be totally butchering this. But basically, they looked at every aspect of the bike and they improved it by like maybe 10%. Just super tiny things like make the spokes a little bit thinner so they're a little bit lighter. Like make sure everything's oiled every time. Like just a few tiny things. And they it was like 3 years later or whatever. It's going to take you time. But then they won and they smashed it for like 5 years in a row. And everyone was like, we didn't see this coming because they were improving 1%. Like every day, or just choosing one little thing to tweak to be like, maybe it will be better if we do that way. You know? So that's another thing, is just making sure that it's like, I guess we were saying it before, it's like, here's your goal. You're not going to get there immediately. In fact, it's probably going to take you very many years. And when you get there, it's going to change. But together, you need to tweak tiny little things one step at a time. Do you have anything else to add?
I think it's one thing that really stands out to me, like the idea that it needs to also be something you enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
There's so many projects that you and I have probably indulged in, and other people I know have indulged in, that they may not care about, right? Or not have any investment in. They don't know any of the community or whatever else, but they see it as like a potential money-making area, right? And that's fine. But, you can do that, sure thing. But then maybe in that situation, you could learn the marketing and the SEO and the back-end stuff and invest into that as something to learn for the greater goal of whatever that may be that you want to achieve at some point. So I guess for me, it's the idea that it has to mean something, but that's probably just me. Like, I think a lot of people also want to align with things they care about if they're going to pursue it. And that also makes the process easier because you care about what you're investing your time in. So that's probably the biggest thing for me. Like, even if it's not the immediate goal, but at least have like a goal that you want to develop into that does mean a lot to you, and whether there's a money-making scheme prior to that you want to invest time in, try to take it as a learning and try to take it as something that you're going to invest time in to learn the back end maybe. Because like you said, you may be creative, you may know how to film, but you have no idea how to do any of the other stuff. So that can be a learning process, and then that can change over time. Like you said, your goals will change, you will change. So it's, just being reasonable with your requests to yourself and to your own expectations.
But making sure that it's something that you enjoy, and to take a step back from that, you could be in a position where you're just kind of like working a job, like you have an okay home life, and maybe you do a bit of exercise, do a bit of socializing, have a drink on the weekend with friends, and you don't really have that many hobbies or passions or whatever it is. Trying things, you know what I mean? Because if you're not like, I'm not crazy passionate about something right now, which is so easy to come across, even when we have so many things going for us. Sometimes you're just like, man, I just want to like, find a swing and swing on it for 12 hours and like do nothing today, basically. But you got to try things. Like, how did we get into table tennis? We just tried it one day.
Well, that's it.
And then like, I just went one Friday night because my friend was telling me, you should come, like jokingly. Next minute, like 7 years later, stop playing. Why would we stop playing? But it's just like, you just try something and then all of a sudden you go, this is awesome, I love it.
Exactly.
And you've never tried it before. You know what I mean? It's the same. It's like with anything really. And it's like, and like the other thing that can really help is like, because there's a social aspect to that basically, is finding a place that has a community that can allow you to blossom in that. Because it's really hard. Like, it's easy now, really, because you can go on YouTube and learn everything you want about something. But that's not physically experiencing it, and that's not experiencing it in a way that brings you community and socializing with it, you know? So, like, yeah, like...
That's important.
If you're trying a new sport, or, you know, if you're trying something that's not that social, like FPV drones, for example, find a social club, or, you know, like, be a little bit crafty, like, use the internet.
Yeah.
Find some places where people meet up, even if it's just online, you know? And kind of... if you feel like you're a part of a community, it's much easier to get into something and like be passionate about something.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So.
And that immediately made me think of the episode with Trista, where she spoke about the idea of like people will try to influence you to make a decision on something. And I see this quite regularly where someone will make a decision on not doing something because their friend told them, oh, it's not worth it. You're not going to enjoy yourself. And again, it's important to experience it for yourself, because that friend, although you may share similar values, you are a completely different person with a completely different makeup. You may love that thing.
Yeah.
And then call out your friend and go, well, don't know why you didn't love it, mate.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's just people are different.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
And, you know, yeah, you might just be friends with the person and they might just say, oh, I didn't really like it. And so you don't think anything of it and you just go, they didn't really like it, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give it a shot, kind of thing. Yep. You just literally don't even think anything of it. But like, so that takes, you know, being present and being self-aware to take a step back and be like, oh, I was just influenced by that thing that person said because I like them, but why don't I still give it a shot anyway, kind of thing.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I suppose, like, before you even have a foundation of these things and have goals to improve, you got to find the thing that you actually do love doing that keeps you going, you know?
Well, that's it.
That when you wake up, you go, yeah, get to go do that thing today, you know?
For sure, yeah.
Even if it's after your 10-hour workday, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, I have an hour at the end of the day to make music. That's my thing, you know?
Yeah, well, that's it.
So...
And I guess also for like taking it right back to early stages when, you know, potentially there's someone who's worked in the job that they have not liked and they've never, you know, questioned any of these things. And maybe they're going through that process of trying to be more self-aware and trying to really align with themselves. I guess like an early step, because we like to have actionable content, is really trying to recognize like what you are consuming, the people you do surround yourselves with. Also, if you're having positive conversations or are they negative, you know, in regards to like people wanting to pursue things. And we've spoken about this a lot. Friends or acquaintances will try to pull you down, right? The crab in the bucket trying to pull you back down. So like really trying to assess like what it is that you're trying to achieve and whether the things around you are allowing that to grow and allowing you to explore things, because it's important to have those supports as well, whether they're like digital supports or physical supports. And you spoke about community a lot. And that community aspect can be the most important thing, regardless if it's a hobby that you're like 100% like so invested in, you're like, this is the greatest thing in the world, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. You may really enjoy it, but then connecting with people will add that extra icing on top where you're like, actually, I've made some really dope friendships. Therefore, I love what I'm doing.
And you enjoy it way
and you enjoy
more,
it as well, yeah.
Way more.
So I think that's quite an important thing. And like for what we do as well, like sometimes we are in isolation. And we've spoken about this, like having those supports and those social interactions to help you take a step back from isolation. Because at the end of the day, like relentlessly trying to grow a business or trying to relentlessly improve, a lot of the time will be an individual process.
It's a really alone game. And that makes it the hardest part, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that, you know, like there's other entrepreneurs around us, but they're focused on their thing.
Yeah, well, that's it.
And yeah, I wouldn't even really call myself like an entrepreneur now. Like it's just like, you know, we're trying to make money through various different like forms of business, basically.
Yeah. Like,
you know, entrepreneurship is more so like buying a business and then like building a business so you can sell that business, so you can build a business so you can sell that business, you know. But yeah, anyway, like, and another huge part of it, and that we like talk about a lot, but it's so important, this is why we mention it so much, is the social media comparison trap. Every time. It's like every time. Like, I know this. And the fact that we talk about it on every single podcast, almost, it feels like.
Yeah.
But every time I go on Instagram, I'm like, why do I even bother making content at all?
Yeah.
Oh, but look at this guy. He's doing so well.
I know,
and he says he's doing so well. Why do I even care? Like, why should we continue minimizing it? And this is stupid. You just compare yourself, and that's the way your brain is built. And so kind of work around to that I've found. So, I mean, this is going back to what you said about kind of controlling the content that you consume. If you're on social media, try and make it a productive thing of social media. And I've tried to convince a few people to get on Reddit recently, because Instagram and Facebook, you're mostly just scrolling through trash and like memes from 3 weeks ago, you know, and
Stale
and
memes.
stuff that you're comparing yourself to. Whereas on
Yeah.
Reddit, you can really choose the subreddits that give you the information that you want, and you can interact and be social, or you can not. I prefer to just kind of be a bystander and take in what I want.
Yep.
And look, you can subscribe to a few subreddits that have cute puppies in them, okay? We're all guilty of it.
Yep.
Puppies are cute, all right? Animals doing funny things or whatever, there's so many of them,
Yeah.
okay? I had to unsub from them, like,
You had too
recently.
many, did you?
I had to cull, honestly.
Right.
And that takes some self-awareness when you really have to go, okay, love dogs, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of them, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of little booping on the nose.
Yeah.
It's funny, but I've got to cull some of that stuff. And so that's another thing is like, you have to constantly be like, is the stuff that I'm taking in on a day-to-day basis really good for me?
Right.
Or not, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, using a platform like Reddit or something, you have much more control of the things you actually consume. You consume real news and things that are productive for your hobby, be it filmmaking or whatever.
Yeah.
But what was the original point that I was kind of going on to there? Is the comparison trap. Yeah.
Yes, the comparison trap.
So it's like, yeah. So, you know, I've been really drilling this idea for years now in myself, basically, but it still exists and it doesn't go away. That's what your brain's built to do, and you have to just completely ignore it. And the worst part is, Dan, that, like, you know, because I'm a filmmaker, so, like, a lot of the actual targeted ads that I get on Instagram are actually from other filmmakers trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. So it's even harder, right? Because the ads that I see are actually from my direct competition. So I'm like, oh, check out what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they're in the same location as me. Oh, they're getting so many gigs. Oh, why do I even bother doing this thing, you know? And it just spiral. You got to be on top of that.
Yeah.
It'll kill you so
Definitely,
quickly.
Yeah. And something that Jai and I spoke about on A Beer With podcast was
Shout out.
was the idea of like making positivity a choice, right? And in that example, like, everyone is guilty of comparing, right? And one thing that I think you and I have started realizing more and more is that when we are our most authentic, true selves and we put ourselves out there, we get a really amazing response, and people seem to resonate with that when we are raw. And all of us can be guilty of putting out our best side, right? But I think in terms of, like, if you want to get into a digital space and you want to put yourself out there, it can be terrifying to do it, right? But it is really important to just be authentic and true, because that will make you stand out over these curated posts that are just all the same, right? And then also the idea of, like, respecting what other people are doing. Like you said, like, when you see this competition, it's hard to just go, I respect that grind.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, that person's my direct competition.
Yeah.
So in your mind, your
You
ego's
feel
like,
threatened.
no, that's not cool. That's not cool. But the world we live in, and with the internet, there is no way you're going to have a niche that has not at least been dabbled in by someone, right? And to me, it's just important to try to recognize that. Like with the Eye in the Sky clothing, I've curated that post, that account, so all I receive is just FPV and drone related content. So my feed is just filled with that.
It's literally you comparing yourself to every single post.
Basically, yeah.
There you go.
But it's also okay because I have to have that strength, and there aren't too many clothing brands that are trying to do it, and I don't see too much, in my feed about that. But yeah, it's also a thing, right? Like, I'm still seeing that this is happening quite regularly. Other people are releasing shirts and gear, and they have a following, and they're influencers. And I could go, oh, that's competition, or I can see it as like, that's also growth in this industry, and I can ride that growth, right? And if I stand out, then I'm going to be the person who stood out and rode that wave.
Perception is reality. Every time it comes back to it. I love it. But it's so true, and you just have to switch your mindset on the matter, switch the way you like perceive it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is awesome. This guy's doing this thing. That's so cool.
Yep.
Maybe I'll even reach out to this filmmaker or drone guy and see if we can collaborate.
Yeah.
Because, perhaps, and then that's all of a sudden like kind of just like blindsiding your ego and being like, I see you trying to protect me, and that's awesome, thank you. But instead, the way I'm going to choose to perceive it is like, oh, this guy's trying to do the same thing as me. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe I could learn something from him. Maybe he could learn something from me.
Yeah.
Or, maybe I'll just keep on my grind, never run into that person in my life because we're completely different people.
That's it.
On completely different paths.
Yeah.
So many ways of looking at it, and
Yep.
you can choose.
Definitely.
But back to the main kind of
The development
premise is relentless self-development. Yeah, we have been very lucky to constantly explore new things and always try to develop in different areas, and we found a kind of good amount of things that work for us both that we can balance, so that if we're like diving down this hole, be it the podcast or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I need to chill a little bit. And my chilling is making music, which is still productive and I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
But so it doesn't feel like, like my balance out, like that thing is also a passion. So it's not just me like sitting around like doing nothing basically, I've managed to find a way to even have my downtime where I feel like I'm relaxing, be something productive and fulfilling,
Yeah.
So lucky to have that.
Definitely.
And yeah, that's like, if you can get to that, I feel like you peaked. It's all downhill from here.
And it's and it's also, which we've spoken about a few times, it's a blessing and a curse to have that mindset, because when you start carving out this, we'll call it like frame of being, like frame of reference. So like Eamon is Eamon, and you see your identity as a filmmaker, a podcaster, whatever it may be that you've associated your identity with. That's fantastic, right? And you mentioned that when you're feeling a bit off about this one thing, then you'll work on another project. But I think I mentioned it before, but I genuinely do believe heavily in self-care and taking something completely away from, maybe not completely away from relentless self-development. Like, for example, the gym, we're still trying to improve ourselves. But to me, it's a mindfulness practice because I've got my headphones in. I'm trying not to think about anything but the moment and just being present. So for me, that's like a way to kind of break up what I'm doing through the day, whether that's like finishing an assignment or like trying to do something online. That is important to me. So yeah, kind of coming back to the idea of like balance and like really recognizing yourself and what your limits are. And you mentioned right like at the beginning the idea of burnout, and I kind of want to unpack that a bit. We've only got a few minutes, but it's really important to also recognize in yourself the signs of fatigue and burnout, and when you're starting to feel a certain way, because as you and I know, and I'm sure a lot of people know, you can start to self-sacrifice and you can start to be really crucial and critical on yourself if you're not doing X thing that you think you have to do. So there's that balance of like being accountable and producing or developing, but also recognizing that we have limitations and that we also need to balance.
And if you want to chill and watch a movie, if you're really feeling doing that,
that's fine. Yeah, exactly right.
And that's been specifically hard for us, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you are the type of person to be so disciplined and relentless and you want to succeed, or you want whatever X goal is, whatever your perception of success is, you are going to be the type of person that is hard on yourself. And that is something that we've struggled with a lot in the last, development stages to get to where we are, basically, is like, we're so like, oh, I can't believe we didn't do that thing. But, recognize that and go, dude, it's all right. Like, remember all these other things you're doing? It's awesome. You're doing so good. Take a day, just chill. It's fine, But it's so easy to be hard on yourself. And when you do that, you're going to get down. You're going to get stressed. You're going to feel bad. Then even when you're watching that movie on Netflix, you're still going to be like, I'm not achieving anything. Where?
Yes.
Just be like, no, I'm free tonight. Might even have a beer,
Why not?
Probably not going to have a beer
Well,
tonight.
if Jai's around.
Nah,
if Jai,
shut up. Okay, that's it for this episode, man. Like, I feel like we can cover a lot more topics, so we might have a second episode of this coming up in the future. Let us know if you want to hear more. Thanks for joining us on MetaMinds, and see you next time, guys.
See you next time.